Hey YouTube, this video response to Alpha Soldier, also known as EMEEK77, and his video Linux Letters Part 2 is open source right for you. Uh, may shock some of my followers here, saying what I am about to say, but I don't, because anyone who follows my videos knows that I am a Linux in general and Ubuntu in particular advocate. I like it. I think it's a good operating system. And I have I've posted tutorials on how to customize it and talking about the strengths of it and everything else. But in order to advocate something, you also have to recognize the limits of something and of that thing. And while Ubuntu is a good operating system and will fulfill, in my opinion, and with the applications and everything that you get with that, will fulfill 95% of the needs of the average computer user. And I really believe that. It's that 5% that is the problem, and it stands in the way of adoption. And you ask me what I mean by that. For example, take an open source application like the GIMP. Great photo editing application. Great graphics application. But at the same time, it still does not have the power. It still does not have the ease of use that, say, an Adobe Photoshop does, or the solutions that that Apple has or that Mac has out of the box. Okay, I recognize that, and I think that's something that most Linux users will recognize. Now, admittedly, on the application side of the house, there's an open source replacement for most commercial or proprietary applications out there. Office, OpenOffice. Photoshop, the GIMP. I know this is a bad example, but Windows Movie Maker, you've got Cinelera, you've got Kdenlive, which, oh, by the way, are way more powerful than Windows Movie Maker, so that's not a great example. But there's some stuff out there that there's no open source replacement for, and there will never be an open source replacement. Prime example. Here in about 10 or 15 days, most people are going to get the W-2s. It's going to be tax season. It's going to be on. And if you're like me, you do your own taxes with the assistance of TurboTax or H&R Block Tax Cut. Well, there's no, as far as I know, there is no Linux port for either one of those two programs, and there's no open source replacement. Can you imagine how hard, how difficult it would be with the way tax regulations change almost on a minute-by-minute basis to write an open source tax preparation program? I mean, you know, that just falls in the category of things that you can't do on Linux. I'm sorry if I seem like a Philistine or if I seem like I'm off the reservation on this, but I mean, that is a real world concrete example of something that an everyday user does with their computer that really they have to have Mac or Windows for. And to be perfectly honest about it, I don't know anyone, even though they like Linux, whatever flavor they use, or that is 100% Unix pure. Anybody who I know that uses it, they either have another computer that they have Windows or Mac on, or they dual boot. In my case, I tri-boot. I run Windows XP, Windows 7, and Ubuntu on my computer. Depending on the day of the week or the time of day you walk in, I'll have one of those three up and running. So, you know, Apple Soldier, you raise a lot of valid points here, and I know it's a chicken egg kind of thing. You know, you don't have wider Linux adaptation because there's real or not a perception that you don't have the applications for it, and then on the other but by the way, people don't write applications for it because there's not a wider acceptance of it. So I don't know how you get out of that cycle. I really don't. Other than maybe, and this goes back to another point that has been consistently beat on this channel, unless you go completely to the cloud. And, you know, I know you can, there are sites that let you do your taxes online. And if you do that, then, you know, your OS doesn't matter. But therein lies some danger. It's bad enough I'm sending all that crap, all that information to the IRS. If I do it in a web-based application, who else has that data? You know, tax data, it's fairly sensitive stuff. Not saying you shouldn't trust it to a cloud-based application, but, you know, I don't want to. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. You know, post a response. Let me know what you think. Have a good one.